So we've heard a lot this week about the purchase journey, right? How it's no longer linear. For e-commerce, there are so many stakeholders getting from the customer through the front door right through the checkout. So we're going to hear from several of those constituents today. Mario Watson of Roundel, with big thanks to Roundel for putting this panel together. Ana Santaella of marketing company Skai. Amy Owen of Universal McCann. And Ryan Britton of Criteo. So take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Mario Watson, head of product at Roundel. If you're not familiar with Roundel, it's Target's retail media network. And I'm pleased to be leading this panel today. So we'll cover how the consumer shopping journey has changed, the best ways to reach them, and why sponsored product ads is a winning strategy. But before we get started, let's start with introductions. Ana.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ana Santaella. I'm Director of Product Marketing over at Skai, and I focus on the commerce business unit specifically. A little bit about Skai, for those of you who might be unfamiliar. We started things off in 2006. We were a search platform kind of built on technology on top of what Google Ads was offering. A few years later, we partnered up with Facebook, did the same thing, built our technology on top of Facebook. And then, as you all know, a few years later, Amazon is a behemoth, right? So we built our technology platform on top of Amazon advertising as well. Nowadays, we support over 37 retailers. Some of those were our clients from the beginning and our design partners for our earlier platforms, Home Depot, Macy's, Zappos, to name a few. And now we run over $7 billion in ad spend through our technology platform, and I'm happy to be representing Skai today.
Amy Owen, I am the head of commerce for Universal McCann. For those that you don't know, Universal McCann, we are a full-service media agency, also part of IPG. A little bit about my group. I actually founded it 9 years ago. Built it from a team of 1 all the way up to a team of 50 right now. We have 20 clients. We have about 400 million in billings, and we have a bi-coastal team. Like I said, about 20 clients. So we have West Coast, Midwest, and East, and happy to be here today. So thank you for having me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Britton. I oversee sales and operations for Criteo. At Criteo, what we do is we help both brands and retailers. On the retailer front, we help power the retail media programs. And then on the brands, what we do is we provide a platform for brands to access all retailer inventory, which is pretty inclusive of display advertising as well as sponsored products.
All right, thank you all. So let's jump into our first question. What are sponsored product ads and what does the landscape look like? Ana, you want to kick it off?
Yes, of course. I think given that we're at Commerce Week, you all might be familiar with what sponsored product ads are, but let's just set the stage. Let's call them pay-per-click ads that drive a consumer to your product detail page, right? I think they are table stakes for both retail media networks and for the advertiser as well. And what I mean by that is, a couple years ago, we had the e-commerce boom. We had retail media networks popping out of everywhere. People weren't shopping in store anymore, so you had to develop your online solution, and that had to include online advertising, right? And so sponsored product ads were kind of a foundational table stake ad offering that all these retail media networks had to offer. Why is that? They're organic. They come out in natural places when you're searching in the consideration phase, in the maybe new to buy phase, new to brand phase. So table stakes for retail media solutions to invest and create this ad format. But then table stakes for advertisers as well. As I mentioned, they perform really well, right? They have a good return on investment. And why is that? Because of their organic nature of their placements, the keyword targeting, the product targeting, the placement that they come up in. It's natural for a consumer to see your product, your sponsored product ad, and it makes sense for them to click and actually purchase that. It's not, a weird ad in the wild that doesn't have connection to what your shopper is searching at that moment. To put it into context, earlier this year, Skai put together a retail media survey where we asked our respondents, what is the top ad format that you're prioritizing for 2022? Landslide, majority was sponsored product ads. Why? ROI, amongst other things. But then when we asked about, okay, what ad format are you prioritizing for 2023? It was the same answer, right? So kind of table stakes across the board. I think retail medias won't stop offering sponsored product ads. And I think brands will continue to invest in sponsored product ads for the years to come.
And to share my perspective for sponsored product ads, we consider them the gateway tactic to retail media. And so I'm not going to preach here to the choir. I feel like everyone knows that COVID changed consumer behaviors. But what we're seeing is an uptick in search, and not only across Google, but on other types of platforms. So when people are in the shopping mindset, we want to make sure that we are tapping into sponsored product ads, whether you're a retailer that's trying to get someone into your ecosystem or a client that wants to actually drive that purchase within the given ecosystem of their retailer that they're driving the consumer to.
So I love hearing this about sponsored products because that's what we sell. But yeah, I think about sponsored products a couple of different ways. I think one, on the retailer front, it's great for the consumer, right? They're searching for a particular category, and sponsored products come up to influence that purchase. And I think sponsored products are really a seamless part of the journey on a retailer website. A lot of people don't even know that they're being influenced by sponsored products, and so I think it's really important for the retailer website. And then from a brand perspective, it's a great opportunity for you to actually influence the shopper right then and there when they are ready to make a purchase. And then on the measurement front, I think that's really the key component to sponsored products. And I think we've done a really good job over the last several years of being able to use sponsored products as a lower funnel conversion and being able to actually attribute your marketing dollars to sales. And there aren't a lot of marketing products out there that you can. You click on an ad, you can track it through the conversion. And I think that's really important about sponsored ads. I think we're here today now to talk about, sponsored ads are really influencing e-commerce. How are they actually influencing in-store purchases as well now that the shopper journey is changing? So I'm excited to talk more about that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you say that. And you make a great point on in-store. At Roundel, sponsored product ads, we call them target product ads, has been one of our fastest growing ad products. And we've invested a lot into it. When I think back about 18 months ago, our focus was on relevancy, specifically the in-store piece. And so if you didn't know it, every time you do a search or you browse a page, sponsored product ads, not only do we look at the online inventory, we make sure it's in stock at one of your 5 nearest Target stores. And ever since we saw that, we saw a huge increase in conversion because we knew guests were shopping online and buying in store. And to build upon that momentum, within the last 2 months, we also elevated our placements of sponsored product ads. So if you do a search on Target, whether it's for mascara or diapers, you'll now see in slots 1 and 2 sponsored product ads right away. And the results have been amazing. We've seen a 40% increase in click-through rate. And with that, we've also seen a 5% decrease in CPCs. So our placements are working harder. And as you said, it's a great lower level tactic, but we know the guest journey has changed. And at Roundel, we think about the entire shopping journey. So I'll give you an example. Imagine you're shopping our website for diapers, and maybe you're like me. You have 3 kids at home and you get distracted. You don't complete your purchase. A day later, you're on your favorite website. I'm on ESPN.com, and I see an ad powered by Roundel for diapers. It's not distracting. It's not intrusive. And you click on that ad. You see it's in stock at your favorite Target store. You know you need to get a few things so you don't make a purchase. You drive to that Target store, you get diapers, but then you open up your app and you see some amazing offers within Circle. And then you use self-checkout. And at Roundel, we're building capabilities to allow you to reach the guests at every single step of the shopping journey. But that leads me into my next question. Knowing the search for products is becoming omnichannel, I wanted to take a step back to ask, what are you all seeing as the current state of shopping? Ryan, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure. So when I think about the target guest, I really think about my wife. She's making purchases all day, every day, it seems like. Prior to the pandemic, I would say, we were still buying probably 80% of our products, whether it's general merchandise or grocery, in store. And then the pandemic hit. Everything shifted to e-com, right? And that was good for our business. But now that we're coming out of the pandemic, the shopper journey is really changing. It's not linear. I would also say, I don't know that it's even consistent. When I think about my wife, sometimes she's buying things online. Other times she's got 2 kids in the car. She'll make a purchase and then go to Target and they'll come out and deliver what she ordered right? And so Target and other retailers have done a great job adapting, I think, to that shopper journey. There are other instances when my wife will go into Target for, a single item and she'll spend $300 and, that's just the way it is, right? So, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that as a marketer, what I'm always thinking about is like, how do I reach my wife along that purchase journey when it is so fragmented, right? And I think that what we're seeing is that online research is really impacting in-store purchase as well as online purchase. And Criteo conducted a study of which 51% of consumers have actually bought a product online while they're in the physical store. And I think that that's pretty eye-opening. The other thing that we're seeing is that consumers are really researching on retailer.com as opposed to necessarily like Google search, for example. And so 37% of consumers from the survey that we conducted, people are on retailer.com researching products prior to making a purchase. And that's 40% more than what we're seeing with other search engines.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that as well, I am a shopper similar to Ryan's wife over here, where, before I even step foot into Target, I'm on my phone and making sure that what I want is in stock. If I'm running out of time, it's, buy now, pick up in store in the trunk of my car. If I have some time, I'll stroll through Target, hopefully not spend $300, but, it's, they're a moving target, if you will, right? We've heard it today. We've heard it all week. The customer journey is no longer linear. So what we've been seeing is a couple of things. One is an importance on data connectivity, because, moving target, you're shopping online, you're shopping in store. How do you connect those data points to then, optimize your strategy accordingly? And I think some retailers are really smart and already ahead of the game on that. You have Circle, you have Redcard with Target, you have Kroger that has loyalty cards, where I think about 96% of purchases are tethered to a loyalty card. So, they're constantly tracking all those data points. And then there is, analysis paralysis, where you have too many data points. But the first step is getting there, right? Connecting those dots from online to offline as much as you can to then inform your strategy is something that we're seeing with our customers across the board, and something that Skai is trying to solve for along the way as well, bringing in more data signals wherever we can. Another point is the omnichannel. The omnichannel strategy. It's a buzzword, but it's a strategy that you have to develop whether you like it or not. It's very difficult, easier said than done. I definitely understand that. But, talking back to 2 years ago, like I mentioned earlier, everyone was shopping online. There was no brick and mortar. Brick and mortars were closing. It was COVID. You couldn't leave your house. You were shopping online. And thank God for, retail media being able to develop and answer to the consumer. But Cleveland Research put together a survey, and they do really thorough research. But what they were seeing was that even though people were going back to in-store shopping, we're still continuing online, right? So that hybrid, there's proof to the pudding. Ryan's wife, me, we're the consumer, right? So it's making sure that you are capturing the attention of your customer wherever they are, whether, picking the right retailers are a priority for you, and developing your strategy against that, and checking on your performance and making sure that you're doing as best as you can in all those retailers, and then how those strategies can inform across the channel, across multiple channels is the two priorities that we're seeing with our clients. Data connectivity from offline to online, but also omni-channel strategy and kind of optimizing against that as much as possible.
I'd love to hear that. And, I'll give you a few updates from a product perspective, how we're thinking about reaching the guests within digital. So I'll start with off-platform. One of the places we see the most innovation coming is within social. And right now we're seeing just strong performance when we think about our partnership with Pinterest. We know the target guest is there and they're really engaging with our ads. But when we think about the future of social, it's social commerce. That's a place that we're heavily testing into. We're running some tests right now with TikTok, where we leverage their influencers and we tag products. And the guest is able to right there add the cart and engage with the product. Same thing with Instacart. And so when we think about off-platform, we know the guest is discovering products and just finding out about new things, outside of the retailer platform. The other place that we're leaning into off-platform is programmatic. We'll continue to remain DSP agnostic, but we are expanding our SSP partnership to 2 partners this year. And within those partners, we'll have more access to premium publishers. We'll have more ad formats within CTV and all sorts of capabilities. And then when we think about our owned assets, Target.com and app, we're doing a lot of expansion there. Earlier, I talked about TPA, how we elevated those placements, but we're doing the same thing within our display advertising. We know viewable placements, the guest has to see them to engage with. Even this past Monday, we launched new placements on our iOS homepage, which is our fastest growing digital platform with higher placements for display. And now when we think about display, you can have those placements, but you also have to have the right creative, the right ad formats. Another place we're looking into. We're leveraging dynamic creative to create highly personalized content, but we're also testing into video. So we're doing a lot on platform. I already shared some things we're doing from a product ad standpoint on platform, but we're taking it a step further. So I'm happy to share at the end of this year for target product ads, you will have closed loop measurement, being able to tie both online and in-store measurement available within our partner Criteo. But that leads us into our next question. With the consumer journey now reaching multiple touch points and brands also leaning into omnichannel strategies to meet the consumers where they are, how can we drive and measure incrementality? Ryan, you want to kick this off?
Yeah, first off, I just want to say that with the Target partnership, like we are so excited about that, being able to incorporate both e-com data and in-store data in order to measure all the media that we're running, I think is going to be a game changer. And it's something that I think our brands are actually demanding. And so we're really excited about that. When it comes to incrementality and attribution and measurement, like obviously, our brands and clients are demanding that we measure our media. And I think that we've done a pretty good job of that within sponsored products. I think sponsored products is a great tool because of the fact that you can measure it and actually attribute it to a pure sale. But our clients now are really challenging us to say, okay, what's the actual incremental lift that you're delivering, not just, the ROAS, right? I think everybody loves seeing 300 to 1,000, % ROAS, but what actually is the media doing incrementally? And so that's something that we're working on. And at Criteo, we do have A/B testing that we do provide to a lot of our brands in order to measure that. And so that is something that we offer. I do just want to say, though, about incrementality. I think that incrementality is kind of a buzzword that's similar to omnichannel as well, and everyone's asking for it. And I do think it's an important metric, but at the same time, it shouldn't be the only metric that we're focused on right now, right? We offer a lot of different reporting and insights and analytics that we try to provide to our partners, whether it's share shift, share of voice, competitive category analyses, CPC analyses, where we can make recommendations and such. So my ask is, yes, let's keep talking about incrementality. Let's try to do it where feasible. I think the other thing about incrementality is just that you need to make sure that it is feasible, because you need enough impressions, you need to be driving enough volume in order to set up a test that is statistically significant. So it's not going to work for every single brand depending upon how much you're spending. So it's just something to take into consideration and work with your retail media partners to figure out all the insights and reporting that they have at their disposal, because they should be sharing it with you.
And talking about brands, we see a lot of requests for incrementality. And I think from my opinion and perspective, focus group of one, or many, depending on what everyone thinks in the room, we need a definition of what incrementality is. Because what my ask would be is that we need consistency and also integrity in the data. Because I could go to one retail media network and they'll tell me what incremental is to them. And I'll go to a B and I'll go to C and D. And then I come back, and as an agency, I have to go back to my client and say, this is incremental ROAS. When they say, how did it perform? I have no idea. So I think we talk the common language of ROAS, and ROAS is great, but how do we get to the incrementality piece of it and really try to hone in on, is this media working for my business? I think what's also really interesting too is the retail media space has changed. It's morphing. And so it's not just, are you here to pay to play? It's here to, stay. And so how are we investing in these platforms, and are they working for us? And so that would be my ask of really just making sure that it's apples to apples instead of apples to oranges right now.
Yeah, I will say my sales team has been hearing a lot of incrementality on phone calls, and I'm getting a lot of requests to show how we can prove that. So it is a buzzword, but it's something that we have to answer to right now. And so Skai is addressing incrementality in a couple of ways. I'll say we run experiments and A/B tests as well. We do that at greater scale with something called geo-based incrementality testing, where we'll run 1 million of simulations at once and have a controlled variable and see what campaign is going to perform better than the other, so that our client could then invest in one campaign versus the other and put their best dollar forward. Another way that we're solving, that's more of a incrementality testing right before you put your dollar forward. Another way that we're looking at incrementality is through measurement. So the story is a pretty crazy case study. We have a client that was running a campaign that included both sponsored product ads and display ads. And after a week or so, they were like, you know what, display's expensive. We want to pull these ads. Okay, understandable. So we're like, okay, wait a minute, but let's look and see what we can do. So we have an ad overlap dashboard. I'm getting really into the product. I apologize. It's a PMM and me. But it's sort of a Venn diagram, if you will, right? Where you see the return that you're getting from your sponsored products, the return that you're getting from your display, and the overlap that you have between the two. And funnily enough, the display ads were actually driving 5 times the ROI than the sponsored product ads. But no diss on sponsored product ads, because when used together, the audience was actually 25 times more likely to purchase if they saw the display ad and then the sponsored product ads. So I think that speaks to the strength of an omnichannel. I think that speaks to why incrementality is a buzzword, because if we're going towards omnichannel and multi-channel, how do you measure performance across the board when you're leveraging different ad formats and different channels? So that's one way. We can't really do it across channels just yet, but that's the goal, being able to see how your ads play with each other and what the overall big picture is, as opposed to, honing in on one certain campaign and one ad format type.
Yeah. So I love the power of a good case study. And so I have a question for you, Amy. How are brands using sponsored product ads to drive results?
Before we get into that, could I have your case study?
Yes. Okay. And I have a slide too,
Okay,
if you want it.
So I have a few case studies. So one that I could share is one of our current candy clients. And so when we came on board, they were looking at retail media as, hey, I just need to show up on the site. I need to be in that aisle on the .com. And so we had a conversation with them and kind of stepped back a little bit. And so we're really all about audiences and meeting the audience where they are. So we did a whole analysis with them and understood that their audiences are all over the place. Granted, we just talked about COVID and how everyone has 2 or 3 different ways of how they want to shop. So we actually did a little bit of research. We did a panel. We came back to them. And what we found was that there were a lot of behaviors around search and trying to understand, especially for new innovations, what's in the product. Can I have it? Am I allergic to it? And so it was really interesting to use the sponsored product ads. And so from our standpoint, we were able to not only really increase our spend in this area across several different retailers, but we were able to look at it from a retailer agnostic standpoint. So from our end, we weren't just saying, okay, we're running the sponsored product ads with Target, but we're running to reach them no matter where they are. And that also including a lot of what they were doing in the past. So we saw an uptick about 15%. It's still running in market right now, but it's something where we wanted to make sure that at the end of the day that we know where the audience is and we want to use the best tactic to reach them. Another case study that I have is with a beverage client, and it's all about reaching Gen Z. And so from our standpoint, we want to build loyalty in the beverage category. And how do you actually get a Gen Zer to become loyal and be an advocate of your brand? So what was really interesting is that we did some research, and from the research, with the given audience that we wanted to reach, we saw 92% of them, actually tried to shop in 2 or 3 different ways during the pandemic. From a search capacity, they don't go on Google. They go on TikTok. They also, interestingly enough, go on retail.com when they're in the shopping mindset. Mind you, it might be Amazon, but it's something that they are looking at, and they're looking at the Walmarts and Targets and Krogers of the world. So taking that information and understanding, not only are they investing into search, but they're still, I think it's 92% of those people are still actually purchasing in that manner. We want to make sure that we're reaching them from an omni-channel capacity. So that is something that ran recently. We've seen an uptick about 20%, and we're actually trying to and continue to drive the loyalty there. So we are seeing a lot of social commerce, and we're seeing a lot of buzz. So we're starting to see that the loyalist is building. We're not seeing necessarily new buyers when it comes to reaching the older buyers. So it gets really interesting when you're starting to build that loyalty bubble within, starting with, I'll call it again, like the gateway tactic of the sponsored product ads. So those are really kind of the two different scenarios, but I would say it's really based on your audience, it's based on an omni-channel lens, and it's all based on who you're trying to reach and how you're really going to try to trigger that to reach and really drive that sale.
Right. Such a great conversation today, and we'll begin to wrap things up. Looking ahead to continue driving results, what products are you investing in for the years to come to best meet the consumer across their shopping journey? Ryan?
Yeah, so at Criteo, that's exactly what we're focused on, is we are trying to incorporate more products and solutions to reach shoppers across their journey. So whether that's off-site display, video, CTV, et cetera, we're incorporating that into our display and our sponsored products offering. And with that, we're trying to build that within one single platform. Right. And so that's what we want to do, is we want to make it easier for our brands and our retailers to work with us. Right. And I think that's what I'm thinking about right now. I'm thinking about simplification and really how do we make it easier for brands and retailers to access all of these products and solutions. And with that, then I think the next iteration is, how do we measure that? Right. And so if we're reaching consumers across the entire journey and they're purchasing in a number of different facets, how do we measure that? And I think that's one of the things that we're so excited about with our partnership with Target, and being able to incorporate in-store data as well as e-com data. So simplification is the word that I would describe on what we're focused on.
I'll have to double down on that.
Okay.
Because coming from an agency background, sometimes we work with 5 or 6 different partners for one given retail plan. So I would say, to answer the question, really make sure that we're continued to have that seat at the table with you from any and all products, because we are the ones that have the pulse on the audience work. We know what your audiences are doing in whatever given space. And so depending on the product and the category, we could help you either develop or help simplify what you're trying to do in order to drive sales at the end of the day.
Yeah. So what Skai's doing, I mean, we're a product company, so we're led by the product roadmap, and that's where we're going next. But it's also very much based on customer feedback, right? And what the customer wants. And what they want right now is to go omni-channel, right? And so how can we solve for that? So as I mentioned when I introduced Skai before, we started off as a point solution, best in breed point solution, if you will, right? And then we matured into a multi-channel solution, an all-in-one platform. You would log in, you could do search, social, retail media, all in one platform, right? And as we continue to develop, what we're working towards is to become an omni-channel marketing platform. I mean, you could say we already are, but we're making developments to get there even further. So what does that look like? Like you mentioned, maintaining partnerships with Criteo, with Roundel, with all the partners that our clients prioritize, right? And as they develop, we develop on top of that as much as we can as well, right? What does that mean as well? If it's omni-channel, it means connecting offline and online, again, with our partnerships, but figuring out ways and data signals that we can kind of provide that data on our end as well on top of. What else does that mean? We have that multi-channel view, but how do we make it so it's more of an omni-channel view? Instead of you seeing search over here and social over here, how can you see that all in one place? How can we toggle different columns and different metrics that have different names on different retailers and make it so it's very easy to use? And then last and final, big product pillar, if you will, on what omni-channel will mean for Skai, is incrementality and measurement. And maybe that term incrementality will change to something else, but really what that means is, measurement across the channels. And again, metrics are different on Criteo than they are on Roundel, than they are on Amazon. So how do you make sense of what those metrics truly mean, and how do they speak to each other? So measurement is kind of that last piece of the omnichannel puzzle where we're working towards.
Amazing. I've already spoke to some of our product updates, so I'll leave you all with 3 key takeaways from our session today. The current state of shopping is hybrid. It's not changing. We know the guest is going to shop however they want. Sponsored product ads is one of the best lower funnel tactics that can be made available. As we mentioned, you can understand not only the online impact, but in store. Then lastly, as great as sponsored product ads are, you need a full funnel approach to reach the guests where they are. So thank you.
Thank you, Mario.
Great.